Hi everyone, welcome to Straight Talk with Steph. So I'm here today with Stacey, who's one of my property coaching clients, and I absolutely have to get her on because the transformation that she's had and that she's made in property since from the very beginning to now has just been absolutely phenomenal, and she's been kind enough to leave me a bit of a testimonial today as well. So welcome Stacey to Straight Talk with Steph.
Hi Steph, you alright?
Yeah, I'm very good. So we've been working together now for, I want to say, a year and a half.
Yeah, it's about, we were working out the other day, me and Phil, it was about 20 months. So
Okay.
September 22.
Oh, that's right.
So 17 or 18 months it is, really.
Yeah, that's right, That's right, because you signed up and then I was like, well, I can't start because I'm going to America.
Yeah.
I just fluttered off for a week or two. I remember that now. God, it feels like it's absolutely flown. So I want to just back up then. So what originally, because you've got your husband Phil as well and you've got your two amazing children, what was it in your lives at that point, 18, 20 months ago, whatever, we thought, actually, we want to start thinking about property?
Well, I would say it was down to Phil, if I'm totally honest with you, as the starting point. We started speaking about property for a few months before we contacted you. And it was Phil, so he was starting to follow people on social media, on Instagram, and he kept coming over and saying, have you seen this, have you seen that, have you seen this? And I'd be like, there must be more to life than, just our everyday lives, is there anything else that we could be doing? And then that was really it. I went to a kids' party, quite social with all the mums and stuff, and we were chatting at a kids' party, and I was chatting to, funny enough, one of your friends, a lady called Kaz.
Yeah. I did my teacher training.
You did.
Kaz, yeah.
You did. So we were speaking to Kaz, and she was telling me that she was looking at like buying a house, and one of the other mums was looking at buying a house, just residential. And I said, I'd really like to get into property. I said, obviously I've got my own residential property, but we want to know, how do we get into property? And she was like, I know someone. And I was like, what do you mean you know someone? And she was like, yeah, I've got a number, a name and a number. So she gave me your details, and that's how I came to obviously training with you 20 months ago.
Oh, God. That shows, I think, for me, the value of advertising what you do on social media.
Yeah.
And if you don't put yourself out there, it's not going to come back.
Well, she's obviously, because she's a personal friend of yours, I don't think she would have recommended you to me if she didn't think there was anything in it. But her words were, Steph sleeps, eats, breathes property. I'll give you her details. Why don't you give her a call? So obviously I went home to Phil after this kids' party that I took Oliver to, and I was like, you're never going to guess what's just happened. And he was like, what? And I was like, we've been speaking about property for a few months before we contacted you. And I said, I've got this contact for this girl called Steph, I said, and this lady's just given me a number, and she said, she knows everything, the ins and outs of like buy to let, property training, etc. Why don't you give her a call? So I was like, I passed it to Phil, and that was my thought process. I just sort of give it to Phil and said, right, that's it. And so I forgot about it. And then I went to work, and like, Phil's more like the behind the scenes, I'm more like front facing. Yeah. And then when I came home, he was like, I've been talking to Steph on the phone, we've been like voice noting each other, and we've booked a Zoom. And I was like, whoa, hang on a minute. And then we were having a little bit of a laugh about that, but like, it's a bit of a pinch me moment because 18, 20 months on, we're here and we bought our first property.
That's it.
For an investment.
You said as well, you thought like there's got to be more to life.
One thing that you've taught me and Phil is like, it's the first thing is get educated. However, it's got to be about your mindset.
Yeah.
And if your mind isn't right, you're not going to succeed.
No.
So that's how me and Phil, I wouldn't say we were negative type of people, because we're always quite upbeat and positive, and we're grafters and we're working class people. We've got, a young family, and we do our best with life and, our jobs. But I feel as though when we met you, and you sold yourself really well to us, basically, of what you could provide for us as like a beginner's course for learning about property. So I feel as though we've come on leaps and bounds from 18, 20 months ago. And I think you have got to have the right mindset. And to be fair, I mean, you know me now from like 20 months ago, my mindset was like, I can't, I don't know how to do it. You know, it was quite negative. And you've broke that down for me into like positive little steps and actions that I've been able to take over the length of us doing property, to be able to go, I can do it, I know how to do it, and breaking it down into little steps, which has helped me to succeed.
And if you don't know how to do it, you just ring me. Pretty much. And if I don't know how to do it, I'll ring someone else.
Yeah,
probably Louise.
Pretty much. Well, that's obviously, you're worth your weight in gold at the end of the day. We're paying you to get educated, and I would strongly advise anybody that is looking to get into property to, you know, it sounds great on paper, oh, buy a house, do it up, rent it out, but everything in the background, people that don't really understand on the surface, it looks easy on paper, but it's hard. And as long as you get educated, then you're not going to fail as long as you're doing it right.
You can't fail come on then, you want to get in? Come on then. The only time you fail is when you don't show up. And I think I've just had this conversation with Louise, who we started property in and around the same time, and I think we were talking about what it takes to be successful in property. So on paper it does look easy, and in theory it is easy. Buy-to-let as a strategy, relatively safe. You'd have to really fuck up to go wrong with a buy-to-let, at the very beginning. It's not necessarily hard. It's hard to be consistent.
Yeah. But I think if you don't actually know anything about property, so me and Phil are, you know, in our infancy.
Yeah.
We're beginners. Well, I'd like to say we're not so much beginners right now, because when we started 18 months ago, we completely didn't have a clue about anything. You know, you've taught us so much about running your numbers, shopping for stock, making sure the deals work, and people who don't know won't understand that knowledge, that wording really, will they? They won't understand. So for me, I think education is like the number one factor. You've got to be educated to be able to progress, to get to where you want to be, to reach your goals.
You and Phil, though, are really coachable, because even though you said there at the beginning I had this negative mindset, I wouldn't necessarily call it negative, I'd just say new.
Yeah.
Like, this is a new challenge. I've never done this before. My brain is having to work in a way that it's never worked before. My relationship is having to work in a different way that we've never worked together before. But you are both really coachable. You've actually disproved every time you've said, I don't think I can do this. You've proved yourself wrong at every hurdle, because you've gone, actually, no, I just need to figure out how
to do it. Well, that's it.
It's always the how, solutions mindset, but you're only human as well. And I think this is what we need to forgive ourselves for, particularly when we're at the beginning of the property business journey. Because you are at the beginning, but you're not in your infancy anymore. You've actually got, I said, welcome to the 1% group. Yeah. It's a mindset.
Well, at the very beginning, I felt like quite fearful and quite scared about doing stuff, and it's because, like you say, it's because we've never done it before that you feel like you're worrying about other people and what they're going to say and what they're going to think. But now I'm at that point of really don't give a shit.
What people think of you has nothing to do with you.
You know, I don't mean that in a horrible way, but everybody in the world are trying to figure out for themselves, aren't they? And we want to better ourselves and better our family, and if we can do that through property and through investment, then on top of everything else that we're doing, you know, we've got a family to run, we've got kids clubs and take me here, there and everywhere, and me and Phil both work every day, on top of then wanting to be a better person and do better things to be able to help our kids in later life, and then obviously all the property training that we're having with you, and you're holding our hand every step of the way, which is great, because we need somebody to guide us through and to be able to get this investment property off the ground and do it properly.
So what do you think then? So from the beginning, from this, I can't do it, I can't achieve, I can't do this, I can't do that, to now, what would you say has been your biggest challenge, and how have you got over that?
For me, the challenge for me is like discipline.
Okay.
So I feel like sometimes I've fell off the horse and I've gone, I can't do it. But discipline and consistency are key factors for me, which is challenging because sometimes with the fast-paced life that we've got, it's like you fit time. It's trying to find the time to do things.
Yeah.
But it's when you're making excuses for yourself of, I can't do this, I haven't got time to do that. It's like, no, you find the time. And I might not do everything that we're supposed to do in that one day, but then I always think of the 1%, break it down. The biggest challenge for me every day is turning up and doing it and being on it all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you've got to be present, you've got to be disciplined, you've got to motivate yourself, you've got to like push yourself because nobody else is going to do it for you. If you want it, you've got to do it. So it's hard. That's a challenge every day for me. And as long as I'm showing up, and if I stop, that's when I fail. If I continue, that's when I'll grow. Because
the cost of not, so everyone says, oh, the cost of getting into property, the education, if that's what the coaching, and acquiring the property, the refurbishments. But I always think that the cost of not doing that, yes, it takes discipline, yes, it takes consistency, but the cost of not investing in yourself will be far greater. You said, you know, it's about time, but if you invest that time now,
for later on in life, but also like going back to the cost side of things, where it might be however many thousand or whatever to be able to be trained, I don't actually see that as a cost, as like a hindrance of we're paying that money. That cost to me is like we're investing that in ourselves, and that investment for me has catapulted me and Phil together to get this investment property, to be able to get a deal over the line, which is now a house that we own, and it's going through refurbishment.
So let's move on to that then, if you don't mind sharing, what, with working with me, what would you say your results have been so far? Like, what if you could pinpoint, and I'm not just talking about the properties, obviously you've got your first investment property, I'm going to grow on that, we're going to get all the houses, that's fine. What would you say has been the biggest achievement? Is it a property thing? Is it a mindset thing? Like,
personally for me, I mean, I can't speak for Phil, but personally for me, I feel like I've grown into a different person over the past 18 months. And that's through you and your leadership and your mentorship that you're giving me, because I feel like I'm a different person. I guess it's a mindset thing for me that's changed who I am.
And that's going to set you in really good stead, because what's going to happen is, and if it doesn't I always think if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you.
Yeah.
And what's going to happen is you're going to get the next property, you're going to be raising more finance from people who've got a bit of money in the bank, you know, or potential investors. You're going to constantly get to these problems, issues, dilemmas, challenges, hurdles, whatever you want to call them. But you've already been there now.
Yeah.
And you've gone, actually, well, when I was in this situation before, what did I do?
Yeah.
And I know I've done that in the past. Okay, this is a new challenge, but actually now I can overcome this because da-da-da-da-da. And that for me has been the biggest reward. Coaching you, mentoring you, training, education. It's a bit of a blend of all those different skills.
Well, because you're trained as a teacher.
Yeah.
So for me, we've got the best of both worlds, because we've obviously got somebody who's a senior teacher.
Yeah.
But you're just implementing your teaching skills in something that you love rather than.
I did love teaching and I loved my subject, but I had to get out of that. Like, that's why I
But
quit.
This is something for yourself, isn't it? You're doing this for yourself, and if you can implement your skills, and it's a selfish thing for yourself, because you're getting the buzz out of seeing other people succeed, and if you can help them and bring them up with you and catapult them to help them succeed, then that's a win-win for you, but it's a win for me as well.
And that's what it's got to be. It's got to be a win. Everyone's got to feel like they're getting something out of it. So obviously you pay me and that's fine, but I'm of the mindset, like, and I'm grateful that you've both chosen me and trusted me, but
it's not always about the money though to me, Steph, because that money is money well spent.
Yeah.
Me and Phil are paying for that service that you're giving us, even though we've become friends and stuff.
Yeah.
You're giving us, we're soaking up all of your knowledge. So like, the good, the bad and the ugly. But we're soaking up all your knowledge, which is, that's invaluable to us.
Sometimes I feel like I need to pay you though, because I'm like, Stace, what do you think of this? Can you just give me your opinion on these chairs? What do you think when this person says this and that? So,
that's good.
You get the discounted rate.
That's good, is it? You know, you value my opinion, of
course I do.
As well. So
because don't forget, I don't know everything, and I'm never going to be like. I had this conversation with my friend Lou, who I've just done an interview with her for the podcast as well. She says, you know, she walks into a networking event and she's the thickest person in the room. She just listens to everyone and everything and soaks up everything. I'm like, yeah, even though I'm further on in my property journey than you, I still acknowledge that I don't know everything. There are still things that I don't know. There are things that I've got to learn, and I do value other people's opinions just because somebody's paying me for property.
And you don't see anybody any differently.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Never, ever.
You're very grounded.
Yeah.
For me, you're very grounded, and you'll treat everybody the same. You know, you do have people in business that they think, you know, that they might be a tad higher than other people, and that's what I like about you, is that you are no bullshit. You get what you're given at the end of the day. But that's how I like to be trained. Yeah. If there's something that I can be improving on, you tell me, so I can soak that up and I can go away and I can make it better. Yeah. You know, I don't want somebody to be like, oh yeah, that's fine. You know, I want someone to be able to say, no, how about doing it this way, and then get better each time. Like you say, it's the 1% marginal gains every day. You might not notice the marginal gains as you're doing them, but then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can actually see. Well, my social media, obviously you're teaching me on my social media. If you look back at my social media 18, 20 months ago, you know, and I've posted my little first post of the feel the fear and do it anyway little book.
Yes, you did,
you know, and I'm not really one for knowing how to do a lot of social media, but now you're teaching me on like reels and, you know, how to do stuff on certain platforms. Yeah. So now I'm getting a lot more people that are watching my reels, and people who are asking me questions, and people who are engaged and want to know what I'm doing. Yeah. And that's obviously, it is in its infancy, but it's going to get to a point where people will be wanting to know more.
Well, you've already got an investor. This is what I wanted to move on to. So one of, I think, I don't want to call it maybe a bit of a blocker, maybe because it was a situation where you've never done this before. So one thing that we do in property, you will run out of money, or you won't have your own money always, and you have to lend from somebody else. So that might be somebody who's got a bit of savings in the bank, maybe it's a retirement, maybe they've inherited some money, or maybe they've just got money, whatever that looks like, it's savings, or they've just got money accumulated. I think if we want to scale and we haven't got other funds to do that ourselves, we loan money from other people. Yeah. It's a win-win, and we give them a great return. Yeah. And it is always a win-win, and it's not us asking for money. And this is what I've always said, haven't I, from the beginning. You're not asking for money. You're offering somebody an opportunity to give them a good return, a safe return, and they can literally see their money working. Yeah. And obviously you have an exit strategy for them. So one of your blockers was, I can't ask people for money. And I was like, you're not. But now you've just landed your first 10 grand investment. Yes. Tell me about that and the transformation in your mindset leading up to that. That's a huge achievement.
So like from the beginning, obviously, like you've just mentioned, you know, when you were training us, God, how many months, 7, 8, 9 months ago, and it's like, right, Stacey, this is what I want you to do. You and Phil put together a plan of how you're gonna get the angels to come to you and speak to you. And obviously, I mean, when Phil speaks, he's good at the behind the scenes stuff. He put like a business plan together. Brilliant. So it's getting out there and talking to people and making sure people are aware of what you're doing. Yes. You know, speak to the milkman, speak to the bin man, speak to everybody that you can speak to, and get everybody engaged in what you're doing. At the beginning, you know, you do feel a bit like, because you don't really know what you're doing, you don't feel like you know what you're talking about. But then we are at this stage now where we've landed an angel, and they've come to us and they've basically said that they would loan us £10,000 for a 10% return over a 12-month period. But we've got an agreement in place. When we refinance the property, we'll be able to give them their money back with their 10% on top. So that's what's going to happen, basically.
So you've got a solid exit strategy, and this is another thing when people are worried about loaning money. As long as you work, like, and again, it's getting educated and knowing how to get that money back to them. It doesn't always have to be refunding them that money or giving that loan back through a property. There are other ways to get their money back to them, but you've got an exit strategy nonetheless. They're getting 10%. If you refinance sort of month 6, 7, you know, that's £1,000 that they've earned there.
Well, did you see, I don't know if you've seen, there was a thing this morning on my social media feed, it popped up saying Barclays are warning all their customers that if they've got a load of cash in the bank that it's not going to grow, and that they say that they should put it into like stocks and shares ISAs. So obviously I'm under, you know, the impression, well, why not invest it in property?
Property is a stock that goes up over time. It always goes up in value.
So this is news from Barclays this morning that obviously I've been having a little read of and stuff. So, but going back to the angel that we've got for the £10,000, that obviously you can see on the reels and stuff that I'm doing, and the stories, my social media, obviously I'm putting it out there for people to see, but also for our angel to see, so they can see what their money's doing, they can see how hard it's working. And to be fair, I have had other people come up to me and ask me, you know, where did you get your angel? How did you do that? Oh my God, Stace, how have you done that? And I'm like, well, if you want to invest, come and have a chat with me. So, you know, it is a pinch me moment, like you say, but me and Phil both really proud of where we've got to, and
me too.
You know, I'm buzzing.
Can I ask you a question then? When you were going through the process of we need somebody to help us with this, and you chose me, did you have a look at anything else out there? And if you did, what made you choose me? Like, I like to think my approach is different because, as you say, I was a teacher for a long time. I'm a qualified teacher. Teaching isn't just standing there and talking at kids. It's finding ways that they can learn, adapting your practice, coaching them, mentoring them, training them, educating them in a way that suits their learning style. And I think that's what makes me different. But why did you choose me out of the University of Google?
Well, I honestly think you need to really ask Phil that question because I've obviously got the lead from one of my kids' mum's parties, you know, so I've come home with this information. I didn't know you from Adam, do you know what I mean? So it was Phil that was doing all the background. He just kept looking at all like the stuff on social media, and every day I'll come home and he'd be like, oh, have you seen this person and that person, and they've got this house and they've done this with it and they've refinanced and they've had the process of how they've done it. And then I'd sort of like pay a little bit of attention, and then after like 3 or 4 months I was talking about it, and then like I say, I went to this kid's party and I got your details. I think Phil is the best one to answer that because he's the one that had the conversation with you first off.
But then we got on the Zoom though.
Yeah, when I got on the Zoom with you, I could tell that you were, I think I'm a good judge of character.
Yeah.
But I also think the universe has obviously presented us with an opportunity, and I am call me a whatever guru about like star signs and a bit fluffy and all that, but like I believe that things happen for a reason, and you as an opportunity has been presented to me and Phil, and we've obviously jumped on a Zoom which was supposed to be maybe 20 minutes and lasted about 3 hours. But
shocking. We know that happens.
But that's how we roll, isn't it? You know, we have these conversations. But you know when you gel with somebody, and you know when you instantly click with someone, and you know that you're not full of bullshit. You know, you're going to take our money and teach us, but you're not just going to take our money and sell us a pipe dream. No. You are actually going to give us full education, hold our hand all the way through. For me, you know, like I say, I've said it before, you're worth your weight in gold. I can literally pick up the phone to you and ask you a question. I can email you at 10 o'clock at night or WhatsApp you at 10 o'clock at night, and yet you might not get back to me straight away, but I know I'm going to get an answer the next day. You're very knowledgeable, you're resourceful, you've done it for 5 years, you quit your job, you know, you're an aspiring person that I look up to.
You know what's mad?
That's how I feel.
It's mad because I never ever envisioned. I knew I wanted to do with property, leadership, neurodiversity and business, like that's me. But it all feeds into ultimately what I want to do, which is to help people in some way, shape or form, whatever that looks like.
It's teaching.
It's teaching, and I went into teaching to improve the lives of young people through education, because I know, and I'm very, very passionate about it still, education opens doors, despite what people in business and property say.
But it doesn't matter the age of the person that you're teaching.
And I never, ever envisioned, like, however many years ago when I did my training, like, working with adults, it was always like the kids in front, I'm teaching a bit of English, a bit of Shakespeare, just having a nice time.
The way you're teaching me and Phil, like, it's easy to understand, if you know what I mean. And you break it down to such a point that everybody's obviously got different ways of learning. Some need to just write everything down. Some need to, like, just show me what to do and I'll do it, you know, and be practical. So you give us a bit of everything, and I think it doesn't, like I say, it doesn't matter the age of the person that you're teaching, as long as that person's receptive to want to be able to learn,
be coachable,
you know, and they don't have the attitude of, I know what I'm doing, you know, I know nothing, or well, I do now.
You know a lot.
But 18 months ago, I knew absolutely nothing. So, you know, when you're talking to me about numbers on a spreadsheet and stuff, you know, I sell office furniture every day for a living, and I absolutely love selling it. I can make money and I can sell. I know me profit and me loss and me margins and all of that. But ask me to figure out how to work out a deal with property at the very beginning. I was like, I haven't got a clue. I don't know. I don't understand what I'm looking at. But it's learning over time to be able to do it. And I think, like I say, one of the reasons we've picked you is because you are very down to earth. For me, you're very down to earth, and what you see is what you get, and that's what I like.
So what would you say then has been the most powerful part of this journey working with me, for you personally?
I like you just as a person, who you are. You're just a little powerhouse, aren't you?
I don't sleep.
You really don't sleep, no. You. I mean, I was saying to Phil in the car on the way up, I was like, I don't know how Phil, like, can deal with stuff sometimes, because she's just like, it's like going a million miles an hour. But, you know, you can cut that bit out if you want.
No, keep that in. I like that. Because I think my brain's like that.
But it is like your brain must, like, want to explode, because the amount of stuff that you're dealing with, when you talk to me and you tell me what you're dealing with, I am just like, my head's fell off with some of it. I think I put the phone down thinking, I need a wine.
I'm going to bed. I'm going to sit in the dark room. It does take its toll sometimes, but it is my brain.
You must feel like you're on burnout sometimes.
I know. Do you know what though? I'd rather be burnt out than bored. However bad that is. And I never advocate that for it. I can recognise in people.
I am pretty much, I think, the same. Like,